So I'm actually going to be working on my brother's 911 a little bit later this evening, but since we're still waiting for him to show up, this engine's here, and this project is technically next on the docket. Brandon convinced me to throw the pan on it real quick since everything's here to do that. A little bit of my favorite compound, blue RTV, in place of a gasket, which is no longer there. I got the pickup tube on. It's a standard E34 M50 oil pan. And then I have to find out where I put the gasket. Oh, it's right there. These gaskets seal pretty well, but I recommend still a thin layer of RTV on the corners and the transitions between metals. But in the middle, it's usually pretty good. So the car's up on the lift. Here are the mufflers that are going on it. They're gemballa mufflers. There's a short shifter, that's a separate ordeal, and then there's a GT3 crankshaft pulley, and then we also have a new belt for that. Fun note, we looked at the GT3 belt, and those cars don't have air conditioning, so you don't want a GT3 belt. In order to remove the bumper, there are 2 T30 Torx on each side. There are 3 Phillips screws in the middle. There's 1 Phillips screw right up here on both sides, and 4 across the top. This is kind of a first step for me, so I don't know what's going to be behind here when we start yanking on it, but there's definitely license plate lights, so you're going to have to disconnect. I guess I'll let you know in the next segment what we broke. You can go from there. So that's all there was. There's just one little electrical connector right in the middle for the license plate lights. Very easy. You could do it alone if you don't have friends. Here is the bumper cover. Surprisingly flimsy, but I guess lightweight is performance, and they want to take every last pound out of the rear end of one of these cars anyway. So it looks like just heat shields is next. Lots of 10 millimeters. There's a production date.
Datum.
What's that?
Datum.
Datum? I don't know. There's the tow hook slot. Also, you could probably put a trailer hitch there. I don't think we have to take the bumper core support off, so I think next step is going to be 10 mils, get these plastic brackets off. Looks like Torx T25 on the front. 10 mil back there on the wheel well. And that's just about it. So we'll start there and figure out what's what. So the heat shields were just a bunch of 10 millimeters and then a single Torx T25. They just fall right off the side. Here you can see the factory Carrera 2 exhaust tip. There is just a V-band, which is very, very handy. That looks like that's going to be a little rusty, so hopefully it doesn't break. Actually, it can break. We don't care. Looks like 13 mil on the top of a carriage bolt. This one on the front. Back there. And there's one back here that goes through kind of a rubber donut. Is it captured? It is not. So you're going to need a wrench on the bottom, or an impact on the bottom and a wrench on the top, but it does look like a 13 mil. So I'd zip those out, loosen up this V-band, and then you have just a band clamp with looks like 2 17s or 18s. And once that's all loosened up, this muffler should basically fall off the car. So here we're actually underneath the car, looking from the inside out. And you can see 2 of the 3 nuts that hold the bracket that hold those 2 vertical bolts onto the exhaust. There you can see the 3rd one. I'm just going to loosen them a little bit here until I can get enough clearance to yank the bolt out of the top. This is not great, but it's doable. So just loosen those until you get enough room to tilt the top of the exhaust out and get this bolt past the heat shield. So here's the bracket. There's the dump from the cat. There's where the tip used to be. And there's the stock muffler. When I put this back together, I'm not going to put the bolts in from the top. I'm going to put them in from the bottom. That way we never have to mess with the nuts on the back side of this stupid bracket ever again. Why it wasn't done that way to begin with, I have no idea. But we're going to out-engineer Porsche in this garage. So the V-band on the tip is a 16 millimeter. Weren't able to break it loose with a wrench, but the impact took it right off. I'm actually going to go under now. There's the tip. I'm gonna go back under now and refasten all this hardware that I had to loosen because we're putting it on a different way. Then we'll throw the muffler on and do the other side. And by the magic of technology, it's installed. I don't have the light on, but I put the bolts in from bottom to top and they went right in with the bracket tightened down, so I highly recommend that. A little bit of Loctite, probably a good idea, not necessarily required. Snug this down, the V-band for your tip once you've got that in, but don't torque the crap out of it because you're going to have to make some adjustments probably when you toss that bumper on, which means you're probably going to have to put the bumper on twice, but big deal. Next up, I'm going to do this on the other side. I'm not going to bore you with the video because it's going to be the same. Once that other muffler is on, we will dig into the crankshaft pulley if we have time. Muffler is installed, except for tightening down this little band clamp here. Everything went pretty smoothly. Second time out was much, much faster than the first. I guess I have the bracket hardware to deal with as well, but I definitely recommend putting those bolts in from the bottom. If you ever have to do this again for spark plugs, it will literally take you half the time. Next step, probably going to take off the bumper core support and this rear heat shield to try to get to the crankshaft, but might Google it first just to not waste too much time. Hey, mufflers are all done. I say you can, but Brandon's screwing it up. For the short shifter, there's two Torx T30s in the center console. Those come out first to remove this coin holder and window switch assembly. Next step is to just pull up on the shift boot, the rear portion of it specifically, which is very, very easy, apparently. There we go. That takes some force. And there you can already sort of see the old shifter cage. So after pulling up hard on the shifter in second gear toward you, that'll just pull right off. There is a Torx T20, so quite a bit smaller up here. Just start taking that one out. There's another T20 along with a whole bunch of spare change underneath the coin holder in the center console. Take that out. So there's these little side wing vinyl pieces. Reach your hand around the back and pop all three clips and slide it toward you. Then there is a single T20 Torx in here as well on both sides. Pull this lower plastic piece out, just pull it toward you, it'll come off. And then dislodge this side cover piece near the parking brake. In the back center console, underneath the rubber mat, there's a Torx T20, excuse me. And then pry up on that little coin holder, and there's another T20. Once those are removed, that should be it. Well, Porsche decided to be a smart ass and put one underneath the plastic, underneath the rubber in the rear center console. Keep finding more stuff. There is another Torx T20 on both sides. Take that out. Pull the entire assembly out toward you, and now the center console should be completely mobile. At this point, move it back slightly, and there is a wire apparently in the center console, which you can see right there, that you have to disconnect. So here's the exposed shifter cage. After clearing all the spilled change out, you can see these spring-loaded covers, which allow you to just pull so you pull up on that and then push this forward, and you pull up, and that's all there is to it. Four perimeter 10mm bolts, and then we have some little clips down here that we have to remove. So on these clips, just grab a standard screwdriver, pull them to the side, and then push forward. And then try not to lose it. Good Lord. Once that's out of the way, you should be able to just lift this entire cable out of the carrier. There's the aftermarket shifter installed in an OEM cage. There's the OEM shifter. So to align this, start with the black cable, and I would suggest put both the shifter in fourth, and then manually pull the black cable all the way rearward, and then get the threaded piece down into the bracket on your actual shift carrier. Then slide the protective piece back down, then hold the shifter all the way over into reverse, and make sure, actually no, keep it in line between first and second, and then drop the blue cable into place there. You may have to mess with it a little bit to get your shifter straight up and down, but it's worth doing the necessary adjustments now because this center console is not the easiest thing to take out. At this point, reinstalling the center console. Don't forget to reinstall the plug for the switch in the rear center console, the interior light and the ashtray, both window switches, and then the mound of hardware that you hopefully didn't tip over 2 times like we did.